Now. Welcome back to Let's Talk with Danielle podcast. And today I want to talk about purpose, business of purpose. And I do have a guest here today, and his name is Brian Dockery. And we're going to be talking about this topic, especially for those who are in a season where you're thinking about starting a business, thinking about your purpose. This is what we're going to be talking about tonight. All right, Brian Dockery, go ahead and kind of introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm uh, I'm Brian Dockery, entrepreneur, businessman, mentor. You can say many things about me, but one of the things I'm most proud of is I'm a father. I am um, um, spent about 15 years or 16 years or so in the corporate world, and I transitioned out into my own company. And so, one of the things that I found in my journey really was just to throughout mentorship and otherwise, it's just really when we talk about business, um, the business of purpose, and really just talking about really the basics of just starting a business and how exactly we um, there's a lot of people in a job that are feeling like their job is a part of their purpose or they want to be somewhere else. So really, what we're going to talk about is really just how to blend the differences between being purposeful and being in a job, and how do we, what does that even look like? So I think we're going to have a really good conversation.
Yes. The one thing about you, Brian, that I really love is that you are a visionary. Like when someone tells you, like when I'm gonna just use myself for example, because you really have been the one that I have went to about business ideas, different steps I needed to start my business, my publishing company that I started last year. And you really was a big help. And so I knew with your knowledge and the things you bring to the table that those who would be watching would really benefit from some of the things that that you have, that the things that you know, all your information, all your knowledge. And like you said, some people when they really want to start something, they are afraid. Like I know I was when I wanted to start my publishing company. I didn't really think I knew I had all the information to get started in it. But like speaking to you and talking with you, you were like simple things. It was like the basic 101 things that
Right,
most people need, you know,
right,
to
right.
start a business. And sometimes some of us, we just really don't know. We don't know those basic 101 steps to get started.
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure, for sure. So I remember when I was about 7 or 8 years old, I was in this store. I'm from a small town in eastern North Carolina, and we were in this store, and so I'm fascinated by, and still to this day, like anything motorized, go karts, tractors, lawnmowers, four wheelers. I mean anything. So growing up in the country, we were in this store, and I saw this red go kart. I mean, it was brand new. I loved it. I saw it and I was like captivated.
Mhm.
So my grandmother was at the register checking out, and she was writing a check. And I was like, Grandma, I was like, can you get me the go-kart? And it was $500. Can you get me the go-kart? I want it, I want it, I want it. And she was like, I don't have that money. That's $500. And I was like, what do you mean you don't have the money? I was like, just write $500 on the check, and just we can just have the go kart. And she was like, it doesn't work that way. I'm 7 or 8. I don't understand. The thing is, I don't understand. I didn't understand the exchange of money and things when it came to writing a check. I just thought, just write whatever you want on the check and just take your stuff. And so that message stuck with me till today, because in business or really anything that you're trying to do, there's always going to be an exchange,
Mhm.
particularly when it comes to purpose. I think entrepreneurship, for example, being glorified on Instagram and on the internet. They show the cars and the stuff and the jets and the glamorous side of entrepreneurship and the glamorous side of purpose. You see people on the stage,
Yes,
you see them writing books, you see them doing all of these things, but no matter what you set out to do that's good, that's purposeful, there's always going to be an exchange for it. And so part of what I wanted to talk about is just really just delve into what that looks like. The other side of it, the cost of it. When you can go and want a Ferrari. I was looking at a show one day and it was talking about how much the oil change for a Ferrari is. And it was insane. Like, what? We think about a Ferrari, it may cost two, three, $400,000, but man, you really have to take an account of the cost that it takes to maintain it, because it's one thing to get something, but it's another level to consider the cost to maintain it.
that's
So if you get something and you can't keep it or you can't sustain it, then what good is it, right? So really just that's when I think about purpose and business and all of these things, I always consider the cost of the thing more than the thing or the goal itself.
that's good.
So
That's really good. Just like when you want to start a business, I believe you have to actually count up the costs. Like before I get started, um, how much money do I need to invest? Especially if it's a product that
yep,
that you're trying to get started or sell. Um, if you're trying to build or start an organization,
yep,
what about the community? One of the things that I remember you when I wrote my book, because you helped me on that too, and you were actually giving me information and knowledge. It wasn't just about me creating the book and writing it and entertaining and ministering within that book, but you wanted me to look at what is your audience? Who are you selling this product for? Know your audience.
yep,
That was key. So I think when you're starting anything, you need to count the cost in that area, like your investments. What does it cost to get things started? Who are you targeting? Your audience. Things like that really helped me, kind of get started. Knowing what I was doing, what am I trying to do, like in this business? What am I trying to gain? Because some of us
yep,
just want, like you said, some of us want to start a business because we have this idea that starting a business mean I don't have to listen to anybody, I don't have to work for anybody, but they don't understand that when you start a business, it's a lot of work.
listen, listen. We can talk for 10 hours about that. That's,
Sacrifice, investment,
yeah,
not just money
100%.
wise, but your
Yep,
time,
yeah,
your research, your knowledge. If you don't know, like if I don't know how to do something, I had to learn how, if I wanted to get my book published and I wanted to publish it myself, I had to go ahead and do research and find out what I need to get started. It was a lot of things I had to learn
yep,
before I started my publishing company.
yep, yep. No, 100%. No, for sure.
But yeah, you just cannot just jump in and start a business. You like you mentioned earlier about the currency or investment and knowing the the audience or the people that you're trying to target for your product. That's going to be very important to start. But you can't stay on that either, right? Sometimes you got to jump out on faith
Yep,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah, no, for sure, for sure. I mean, anybody starting something, I would always, don't just do something for the sake of doing it. You're right. I mean, everything ever created has a purpose, and when you want to understand the purpose of the thing, you go back to it's like when you start something purposefully, it's like you're putting your mind in the earth. Like the light bulb, the car, anything that we use today, like somebody thought of it and they said this can help people do it faster, more efficiently, and better. So everything started with a thought. And these are all purposeful things that we use today. Like somebody thought of a light bulb and transitioning away from a match or fire and that kind of thing. And these things, there's a story, Einstein, uh, trying the light bulb 10,000 times or something. But that's just the process of it. A seed and a tree is the same thing at different times. You know what I mean? So you can look at a seed and say, oh, that's just a little tree or something. But the little tree is simply a large oak tree, but it's
Hmm.
immature, haven't reached its potential yet. So with a little nurturing and in the right environment, it'll reach its full potential. But everything starts small. We could talk about that too, the power of starting, because, when we're looking at something in its finished state, somebody on a stage, for example, it's easy to discount, humble beginnings and starting. I have a good friend of mine is went on to win Grammys and perform on all these big stages, but I was with this guy when he was performing in like cafeterias of schools and colleges and stuff, and no one was paying him any attention. Like people, he would finish, brilliant singer, like so dope, but he would finish and like no one would even acknowledge what just happened. Like, and I'm sitting there like, are you serious? Like this guy, like
He's good.
this is greatness in front of you right now. And nobody, they're eating or whatever they're doing. But, now when he's on the big stages, people are like, oh, you know, but it's
That's
the
how it goes.
same person, but, with some consistency and so forth, you reach your potential. People appreciate your potential now, but you have to have a level of consistency to be faithful over the small things. Uh, and so that's really, really important.
That's funny when you brought that up because sometimes you get discouraged. You can get discouraged when you're starting out.
Yep.
Um, like for myself, sometimes if I don't see the fruit of a thing, I'm like, okay, should I even be doing this?
Yep.
Or, like you mentioned, the process. Sometimes it starts out small, and sometimes you just
Yep.
got to be dedicated. Tyler Perry, he talks about Tyler Perry, he talks about it was a video he did, and I love Tyler Perry. And me and you both were talking about him not too long ago, but I love the way he think, um, the way when he started his plays, he said he kept, he stayed right with those plays, even when no one was showing up, even
Yep.
when like it was like family or friends. He didn't venture off to do this. He
Yep.
waited until the plays actually grew up, and
Yep.
then he went on to do the movies.
Yep.
And you see his movies has changed, and he's going in so many different directions, but his message really stuck with me. It's very encouraging, because like you said earlier about the process, things are going to start out small, but you have to be consistent and keep building and growing. What can you say to, since we're talking about like, the purpose and all that, but if you have some young people that are wanting to start like and I know you, because
Yep.
you mentor, and I know you probably mentor in so many different ways, and you probably have young people, maybe college kids, or maybe young adults, or adults, that you pour into and give advice to about business and things like that. So when you have someone wanting to start that business, what are some of the things that you kind of ask them, or questions, or get their mind thinking?
No, good question. So the first thing is, why are you starting a business and what kind of impact do you want to make? Because entrepreneurship and owning your own thing is hard. It's not easy. And I think going back to the glorifying entrepreneurship, like you really have to know why you're doing it. People in my industry, there's several people in my industry that have closed their businesses, closed their companies and shut down, when we were going through the supply chain issue, and still are in some way, but we were going through the inflation and supply chain difficulties, like they couldn't manage it and they just folded and quit. But if you have a deeper purpose and an impact that you're committed to, that can help. Some people may call that passion. I tend to think passion is can be a very fleeting thing depending on what you're doing. I think committing yourself to an impact, not necessarily a destination, making an impact is the fulfilling thing that's going to keep you going when things get rocky and things get tough. If you're in it to make money, if you're in it to achieve a certain quantifiable outcome, when you achieve that, then what? I want to make $1 million. But when you make $1 million, it's not going to be enough because you're going to have worked for that. And then you probably built your lifestyle around $1 million. And then you're going to need two and three and
Yeah.
five and 10. And which is the reason why we see a lot of wealthy people, they're not really fulfilled. It's not about money. You have to attach yourself to a bigger vision that helps people and impacts people and humanity. And that's the thing that's going to give you the drive that it takes to make the impact you want to make. If you focus on impact and serving people, the money will take care of itself. But if you're just starting something just because you think you hate your job, it's not where you want to be. Oh, I'm going to start a business. Trust me, you're going to work twice as hard as you do in your job, if not more, than you do owning a business. Like it's not really what people think it is. Um, but
That's
that's with anything. Anything worth having is worth working for.
exactly.
I think the key though is, when do you stop and start? When do you stop doing something because it just isn't working, because it's a bad idea, or you're not executing properly? That's the key. There are reasons that you should stop, but there are a lot of reasons why you should keep going if your vision is attached to a purpose, a bigger purpose than yourself. So I would just simply, and that's even a rhetorical question to ask someone, why do you want to start a business, or what kind of impact do you want to make? That's not really for them to tell me. That's for them to examine for themselves before they start, because it takes a huge investment in every aspect to start something great.
That's good. Like you said, but sometimes people don't know to look in deep because the other motives
Yeah.
on why they're starting their business. And
Yep.
so when you hear that question, or when you hear someone kind of say, hey, it make you take some steps back and make you kind of look at, okay, why am I starting this business? Why am I passionate about this business? Or why am I wanting to move forward in starting something? And
Yep.
and that kind of goes back to purpose. I believe, like you said, so many people, like when I get people message me about, hey, you want to make this money, or you want to do, like quick schemes, or
Right. Right.
maybe
Right.
they're not schemes, but if it's
Yep.
a business opportunity, and if it's not something that's why you have to know your purpose, because if it's not something that's geared towards something that's connected to you and the gifts. You said something that was so amazing one day. You said something about my we were talking about purpose, and you said, and it stuck with me. You said, my job is to utilize all the gifts that God put in me.
Yep.
And you said that's like part of my purpose. You begin to share your perspective on purpose. I had never really heard it that way, but when you said it, it was really powerful.
Yeah.
And I can't quote it word for word. You can, but
Yeah.
it was moving, because when you begin to describe purpose, not everybody look at purpose that way. When we think of purpose, we think of maybe one thing, or we think of a big platform, making a lot of money, doctor, singer, actor, lawyer. But the way you said it, it really resonated with me. It really
Yeah.
made me look at um, my life and the things that are in my life when it comes down to making sure I'm utilizing all my gifts that
Yeah.
God gave
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. So I got to use my hands now because you're getting into
I
this is my talk right here. So listen, what I said was, and there's a lot of ways that I think about it, and a lot of ways I could say it, but essentially, purpose is my purpose overall is to inspire people to love
Mhm.
and to raise people's consciousness to their gifts and then inspire them to use those gifts to serve humanity, right?
That's
And so that expresses itself in so many ways. So when you talk about inspiring people to do things in love, that's biblical, that's Proverbs. You know,
yes.
everything you do, let it be done in love, right? And so when you talk about your gifts and the things that we have, like those things are the things that we have to serve humanity. So the goal, you know, like if I have something like, if I have a golf club, like I have a set of golf clubs in my garage, the best thing I can do with those golf clubs is to go out and play around with some friends, have fun. Tiger Woods with the golf clubs is just, he just turned down 700 or $800 million to play in a tournament over in, you know, the Middle East, right? So that's his gift, that's his tool that he's using to bring awareness to golf, to the sport, and people enjoy watching him, you know. That's his gift, that's his tool. And so, but that's on a very large scale. We look at the Oprahs and the Tyler Perrys and the, you know, these people that are famous, that are operating in their gift on a high level. But
Yes.
the thing is, you know, that's like looking at a tree. The tree is already mature. You know,
Yes.
20-foot oak tree, for example, versus a small seed. Everybody has a seed. And so for what it means for the everyday person would be, you're walking by somebody and you overhear them saying they need something that you have that you can help them with, and you take time to do that. Your purpose can be, I see a woman on the side of the road struggling to change her tire in traffic, and I pull over and block traffic so and help her change it or change it for her. It can be, um, you know, you someone, you know, you, when I was in corporate, I used to come across resumes. So people would submit resumes, and I, you know, this one particular time I saw this resume with this guy, and I was giving him feedback on it. He wasn't what I was looking for, but for some reason his resume stuck out. And so instead of like rejecting him, I said, "Hey, I would change these things," and giving him some feedback on his resume.
Yeah.
And I knew how to do it. So, and he was talking to me, so I went ahead and like redid his resume real quick. Hey,
Wow.
change this, change that, do this, and then here are the kind of opportunities I would go after. Like that's something that I knew that he didn't know that I could help coach him on. You
Yes.
know, I were times where I recommended people when I was in corporate to coach them on interviews. Hey, here's what they're looking for. You know, from a career coaching standpoint, here's how you do this. Here's how you do this, and help walking them through that. And you know, like everybody that I recommended up for position, they got at least an offer.
Wow.
So we look at purpose in this finality, like it's some large thing that's unattainable, or some journey and destination that's hard to reach. But really, your purpose is, what is it that I have that can be used to serve people right where I am? You know, biblically, like God didn't change what people were doing. Like Paul,
Mhm.
you know, Peter, he didn't change. Peter didn't change what he was doing fishing when he changed his life. He just used that to serve
Yeah.
God. Like that's what he tells us to do. Take the gifts you have and then turn them toward serving a higher purpose to draw people back. Like do that in love, and people will see the difference. In business, you know, one of the purposes of me starting a company was not just to meet a need from a value standpoint, but it was also to change the way people do business, like serve people. You know,
Wow.
and I get feedback all the time. They're like, "Why do you like you're you know, you guys are on it. Like as soon as we need something, you're on it, you know." And then I remind them, this is what we do. Our mission is to serve people with love. And it's completely different. And people are shocked because they're not used to it. So I wanted to change the entire customer service experience. Like when you come to us, it's not just going to be a transactional thing. I'm going to come in and be very thorough with you and help you see things that you don't see. And there's sometimes when I do that to so much of a level that they go back to their current like company and tell them what they need, you know. And
Wow.
so
That's like training almost. They go back and
yeah,
use your skills to their and teach their coworkers or their
Yeah.
employees.
I enlighten you about something. You're like, oh, hey, I need this. But that doesn't mean that I didn't do my job. We didn't do our job. That just means that I've opened you up to something that you weren't aware of. And you would think that, oh, they would see that and they would just automatically come with us. No, that's not necessarily the case. My job was done. I did what I was led to do. I did what I was led to do. So, you know, it's not some outcome. I'm gonna do this and this is gonna happen this way. Sometimes it doesn't, but you have to be confident enough in what you're doing to say, I did my job, I did what I was led to do, and that's it. So purpose is just raising your awareness to things around you and really just looking for opportunities to serve people. Really, that's really ultimately it.
That's
It can be really complicated, but I think that's a very simple way to look at it when it comes to purpose.
yes. You know, those who are watching, if you guys are watching now or you will watch later, please leave a comment and I definitely will go back and try to answer any questions that you might have that we might didn't mention or something that you probably, if you're watching this, you had like a question on the top of your head, go ahead and leave a comment and we'll definitely get back to it. I don't see the comments now for some reason. I don't see the comments, but I definitely will go back and look at and try to answer any questions you might leave. Brian, when you said that about your company and the motto of your company, um, when you first started your company, was it something that the reason why you started? Because you just recently mentioned a little bit why you started your company, um, but when you first started your company, do you believe that it was something already in you, um, or it was just something you kind of fell into,
Yeah.
like creating?
Yeah. So this is why it's important to embody something and be open to how it expresses itself. So I remember like at least 10 years ago, I
Mhm.
was drawing like logos and names of what I would call my company. Um, Even in Word, just kind of playing with fonts and names and different designs and stuff like that. Um, so I knew that I would run a company, but I didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't know when. I didn't know what it was going to do, but I knew that I was going to run my own company. I saw it. And so I've before I did that, I was running the US business for a biotech firm. And so we were focused on organic and what's called unrealistic products, which are organic products that are safe for the environment. And so I've been, for a long time, I've been very sensitive to things that impact the environment. And so I traveled like all the time. I was in an airport almost every week. So that said, I was in hotels and restaurants all the time. And so I was on vacation this particular time. And I was in a hotel in the restaurant waiting downstairs to go into the restaurant. And while I was waiting, I overheard this lady complaining about the products they had in the restaurant. She was like, we have to get better products. It's a shame that we can't, get better products this way. And this is in Florida where they're on the coast where they're very sensitive to things like that, plastics and so forth. And so something just in my mind just clicked. I was like, I can do something about that. And so that year, this is like 2018, that year I started traveling again and I didn't, have time to start it and so forth. But there was one point where I was thinking about my next move, and I was actually in a restaurant meeting with someone about a completely different thing.
Wow.
And um, I asked for the owner of the restaurant. I was like, "Who's the owner?" So I sat at the bar. We were talking, and the lady who owned the restaurant, she came over, and she said, "Hey, can I help you?" I said, "Hey, your straws down there." I was like, "My company can supply you better straws." They had plastic straws. And she was like, "Oh yeah." I'm thinking she's gonna give me some long
Yeah.
generic answer. Hey, send me an email. We'll talk about it. She said, no, let's do it. She was like, let's
Wow.
do it. Send me some. I didn't have a company. I had nothing. I had not
That's
one thing.
confidence.
But I was speaking to what I knew was possible. Like I ran the U.S. business. I knew how to put the basics of how to connect things and manufacturing and logistics and marketing, and I knew all of these things from an overarching standpoint because I kind of did them myself or I oversaw them. And so I went home, did some research. A month later, I got my LLC. It didn't take that long to get my LLC. That's just after I did the research and I said, okay, I can make this happen. I did my LLC. A month after I getting my LLC, I was shipping them and delivering their first product to that restaurant. And we got to a point where we supplied every single thing in there, like from the food containers to the napkins to the cups to everything. And so, but we
Wow.
turned it from plastic to eco-friendly. So one of our missions is to divert 1 million pounds of harmful waste from landfills and waterways. And so, that's the overarching goal. But
That's good.
the misconception in the industry was eco-friendly products are they're either hard to get or they're way too expensive. So
Okay.
I debunked both of those and have been able to supply a lot of restaurants with that and stuff forth. So if you go into a restaurant in DFW or otherwise, there's a good chance you've used some of our products.
You want to name a few?
No,
No.
I'm not gonna
No,
uh,
you're good.
I'm not gonna put them out there, but we got good coverage.
That's good. That's good. Well, I'm so happy you kind of shared that because when you explained that whole thing about how you started your business, you said some really. I hope who will be like whenever someone watches video, they catch what you just said because you said something really important. You said, "I did my research." You heard something. You say, "Hey, I can fix this," and I'm pretty sure you had um a, what word I want to look for you just knew that this was an opportunity that you needed to jump on, basically.
Yep.
And then you did your research and then you moved forward into the plan. And I mean, but you got to do your research. You got to do your research. And that's what you did do. But then here's the hard part. Some of us don't have confidence. Who would have said, I want to speak to the owner and didn't even have a company yet? So that takes faith,
Yeah.
confidence, and that's what you did. You moved into that.
Yeah.
That's good. And I hope people pick up on that.
Yeah. I'll say something else about that. So research is great, but what
Mhm.
I will say is I didn't get so bogged down into research because information can a lot of times stand in the way of faith. When you know too much, when you research too much, when you get too much information, sometimes it can paralyze you from moving forward because you feel like it can become a daunting thing that you're not capable of doing, right? So the most important to this day, I don't have a business plan.
Wow. Now I didn't
I
know that.
I
I
I
didn't know
don't
that.
I never created a business plan. Most of that was due to the fact that I was just busy doing the work.
Yeah.
The other part of it is when you know you're called to do something,
Yes.
like whether I had a business plan or not, it wasn't going to stop me from moving forward. So I didn't take the time to do it. And so we grew over 600% last year. And by all standards, that's astronomical. Um, and so my business plan was I know I can solve this problem
Wow.
and I know what I can do. I'm good at going out and forming relationships and putting the deals together and bringing in the big fish.
That's good.
What I'm not good at is frying the fish when it comes in. So, as far as growing the company, I can do that in my sleep, in terms of creating partnerships, getting customers, forming the relationships, putting the numbers on the paper. That's I knew I could do that. And so it was a matter of I know my value proposition, I know what I can do, and I know the problem you have, and I can come in and help you solve that problem.
That's good.
So nothing was going to stop. Whether I had a business plan, a 10-page business plan or one page, it
Hmm.
wasn't going to stop. It wasn't going to change whether I did it or not because I knew it was what I was supposed to be doing.
That's
So,
good. That's
and
amazing.
I'm not suggesting that people don't have business plans. What I'm saying is it's more important for you to start doing the thing that you know you should be doing and then be committed to the process of improving. Because the first order that I shipped was I looked back on some of the first orders we shipped or delivered, and they weren't
To the
what
level.
I'm doing now. I'll say that they were not. It was not that. So we've hit walls and hit different obstacles and barriers, but we that led us to diversify our supply chain and so forth. So people are like one of our biggest competitors are is like a $40 billion company.
Wow.
And so we've come in and taken a lot of their customers. And the way we've done it is serving people. Like they don't put an emphasis. They incentivize their people to get more accounts, but they don't incentivize them to serve their customer. And the biggest gap in the market I found was that they didn't have a go-to person. They didn't have someone to show them better ways to do things, to
Wow.
give them a consistent supply. And so us getting being able to have a consistent supply was born out of us hitting a wall with one supplier and diversifying out to another manufacturer. And so from that, our difference is we have multiple manufacturers. Well, if I can't get it there, we can get it here. If we can't get it there, we can get it here. But I never would have figured that out had I just waited and just tried to set this up first because there's no way I would have known it. There's some things you're just not gonna know until you start. You can do research until you're blue in the face, but you're gonna learn 90% of everything you need to know while you're doing it. And that's something that if you never take away any single thing that I say, start. If you have something in your heart that you know you should be doing, start it and be committed to figuring it out.
And improve the things
Improve
that,
it. Be
yeah.
committed to improving it. Be committed to being better. Be committed to being better in yourself, exposing yourself to knowledge, exposing yourself to information, exposing yourself to people, exposing yourself to people that do it better than you do, exposing yourself to things that cause you to challenge yourself because it's hard. And you think you know something, but when you get in the presence of someone doing it effectively, it
Yeah.
challenges your thought process. And it takes courage to do that because we can get so committed to this is the way I'm doing it and this is the way it should be done when you have to look yourself in the face and you have to put your pride aside and say the overall goal is to be effective. So
That's
whatever it takes to do that, then that's what I need to do. I need to let go of the way I did it and embrace something new. I mean, and that's not just in business, that's just in life,
life.
committing yourself to being a better person. Like, some people only, it's easy to like only read one thing or only watch one news channel or only read a certain kind of book or watch a TV show because those are the things that feed what we already believe, right? So putting yourself in the presence of something that can potentially challenge that takes courage. It takes uh, a true commitment to being better, whether it's the way you thought or another way, right? So
Starting this podcast was a challenge. People,
yeah,
I get nervous. Like I
yeah,
get nervous sometimes in a setting. But I heard God clearly say, start this podcast, right? And it started when I launched my second novel, Love and Secrets. Um, and I said, well, how I'm going to get this book out here. Let me, I had the idea to at least bring three women on the podcast to talk about their life, their business, and I related it to the character
yep,
in my book.
yep,
And I kept hearing God say, keep going. And I'm like,
yep,
I don't, even with ministry, because I'm in ministry, and I speak, I talk about God. It's like it's a push. It's always been a push to get me out in front of people or to loosen up a little bit. And so doing this podcast, I mean, I'm sometimes I get nervous. And so it takes courage for me to say, you know what, I I know I'm supposed to be doing this. I am passionate about doing this. I'm passionate about talking about topics that matter to me. That's why I started this podcast. Things like relationships, business, faith, um, family. This is why I started this podcast, and meeting people that have already started their journey, um, learning about themselves in business or in creating an organization or maybe creating a product, and hearing their story. That's
Yep.
why I created this podcast, and where we can at least talk about God as well. And so
Yep.
bringing you people like you on, Brian, and other people that have shared their stories before, I want to continue to do that and continue to improve.
Yeah.
you know,
So let me say something about that, because that's really key what you said. And so first of all, the reason you're nervous is because you're challenging yourself. Think about people that are not nervous in doing something. It's because they've done it multiple times, and they like we don't question driving over a bridge because we've done it so many times that we don't even think about, is this bridge going to fall when we go over it? Like, we have faith in that because we've done it so many times. um, I put up a post with my daughter. I have a daughter that's 7, but when she was about 1 or 1.5, like, she literally jumps off a counter in my arms twice, multiple times, but what I posted was only twice. But when she does that, she's the first time she did it, like, she was on the edge of the counter, like,
she's so cute.
looking around, like, I think. But when she did it and I caught her, she was like, okay, all right. And then she did it again. And then she did it again. So to this day, I can sit, she's 7, but I can sit her on the counter right now and she will jump off with no problem, because she knows, one, that I'm going to catch her and I'm not going to let her fall. And the second thing is, she's done it multiple times. So she's not nervous about it.
Mhm.
She jumps off even when I'm not even looking sometimes. Like, she just jumps in my direction. Like, that is a whole word, because
Wow.
I cannot even, before we had to lock eyes and have a non-verbal conversation and say, I got you. Like, come on. Now she'll just do it and just jump in the direction that I am, because she knows that I'm not going to let her fall. And so when it comes to our divine purpose, it's a matter of jumping in a direction
Wow.
and trusting that we're not going to fall. You know what I mean?
I
And
like
then, like, you have to do it. There's no other way. And the other part of that is, you know, when you're very, very confident in something,
that. Mhm.
it means that you developed a skill to do it consistently, which is good. But when you're elevating and you're doing something new, you haven't had the experience yet. So it's hard to be confident in something that you've never done before. And so this is the importance of growing, and this is why it's so hard for people to step out and do the things that they want to do, because it's uncomfortable.
Oh,
It's
yes.
not the thing we're most comfortable in, but it's the thing we have to do, right? And so the other part of it is, the third part is, you're nervous because you care. If
Yes.
you weren't nervous, if you didn't care, you wouldn't be nervous. You was, oh, I'm just gonna wing it and this and that. You called me, just in full transparency. You called me about 10 minutes before we went on, and you were like, "I don't know how to do this. I think this, I think this is my first time using the platform. I
Yes.
recommended a new platform.
Yes.
So this is the first time you're doing it. So you're like, I don't know if I'm on yet or if I'm live. I think so. Can you, get on, let's do a test and stuff like that. Like,
You said,
that's
why are
it.
you nervous? You always, in some ways, you always kind of like, why are you got this?
No, you should be nervous, because when you're nervous, it indicates that you're stretching yourself and you're doing something new and something different. And so don't, we cannot be afraid of looking like,
Messing up.
we can't be afraid of, like, failing in that way, because that's the only way. I look back at some of the first product we delivered, and it was, like I said before, like, it was janky. Like, it was janky. Like, I would never do that now. But if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't be here because I had to figure out how to do it better. But starting, like, thank God, the first customer I had, they gave me some grace to evolve and
Wow.
grow and work into it, and that. And then it was the pandemic, so demand wasn't as high initially. So it gave me sort of a runway and some grace to kind of start where I wasn't like thrown into the
Mhm.
fire. So that's the other part of it, is like it's just working up to it. But God knows, like, if I could just wave a magic wand and just give everybody the courage to start and do the thing that they
That's
have in their heart, like, what would this world look like?
the
Like,
curse.
what if the things we're using right now, that person wouldn't have done it? Like, can
That's
you say someone else would have done it? Maybe,
true.
but maybe not. You know what I mean? Like, the things that are in people's hearts and heads, like, I'm gonna do this. Like the iPhone,
Mhm.
the phone. Like, I have a BlackBerry in my drawer right now that I still keep. I have a flip phone that I use that I still
Wow.
keep. Like, you know what I mean? I'm telling my age. I'm 39, but
Mhm.
whatever. When I was got my first job, like, I had this phone with the antenna on it. It was bulky, like brick.
Yeah.
I had the flip phone. I had the Trio. I had the BlackBerry. And I can't even imagine trying to send a text message on a
Yes.
BlackBerry right now. Like, it's insane. But even the first iPhone, as revolutionary as it was,
It
it's
looks
still
really
not.
crazy.
It was as revolutionary as it was.
Yeah.
It's still not what it is right now. The 13 or 14 or whatever version is out right now. Like, it's still not that. So every so often, you'll get a software update on your phone. Like, they still don't stop innovating and improving something.
That's
That
true.
didn't stop them from starting. The iPhone 6, I think it was the first one. Like, he started and said, we're going to do this, but we're going to continue to improve it and update the software and fix the bugs and that kind of thing. And we cannot get so, like, paralyzed by fear that
Mhm.
we don't start, man, because if we don't start it, you'll never know. You will never ever know how
What? Yes.
to make it better. Like, you have to do that, man. I'm so passionate about it.
I know because every time I know if I'm linking up with you, if I'm asking you questions about something, or if I created something and I want your opinion about something, I what I'm going to get from you is the truth, knowledge, and like, especially you're really good king in like marketing too, because when I came to you with my book, and I can be stubborn sometimes. I don't think you know that side of me. I can be stubborn sometimes.
We
And
all can
so
be.
but when I came to you with my first book, that novel, I knew God told me, he's like, trust him. If he tell you to change something, you need to trust him. I was like, oh, I was so proud of my book cover, okay? When you told me, like, hey, how attached are you to this cover? If you want to elevate your book, if you want to be able to attract the right audience, or the, you know, you need to upgrade your product. And you said you need to kind of elevate your book cover. I knew you was going to change. I didn't want to change it. I was really, really loving my book cover, but I did want to, like you said, improve. And that product, well, it's a book, but the book cover is a lot. Like you kind of
Yeah.
explained to me, book cover, that's the first thing someone's going to look at, right?
Right. Right.
So um, so when I hear you say improve, improve, that's one of the things I had to learn to do, was let go of the way I see it, because I'm not looking at um, how a customer is going to look at the product, or a buyer. So I have to sometimes, when I'm starting something, especially if it's my books or anything like that, I have to definitely say, okay, how can I improve this? I want the best of the best, because I don't want anyone to look over my book because of
Yeah.
it's not professionally put together. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, and every time you tell me a story about somebody saw the book cover and I mean, I think recently you just told me an opportunity about, you got the opportunity to do some amazing things because somebody liked the cover. It's like all they know is what they see, and then that attracts them in to see the meat of it. You know what I mean? But if they see the cover and it's like, that's a lot of times that how you position that is the deciding factor on whether they're going to read your book. So the goal is to have them read your content and get something from it. However it looks and packaged, that's negotiable. The goal is for them to read your book. So we
Yes.
can't be so attached to the one part of it that's going to stop them from getting what we really want. So that's a good example.
We said a lot. Thank you for even coming on my show, just kind of giving your story, some tips, some advice. I mean, I really like that you kind of shared a little bit about how you got started with your business. It really kind of, like I said, the confidence, understanding, I want to say discernment too, because knowing that you said that there was a need and you felt like you can solve it, that was good, because not everyone kind of listen to themselves. They're so busy doing other things, and I don't want to go off into that, but they're so busy
Yeah.
doing other things that they're not really tuned into what they're gifted in doing or solving a problem that they can do.
Yeah.
So we have to do this again. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience before we end?
Yeah. So, you know, I'll say, we talked a lot about business and purpose, but I was talking to a guy one day, again, just raising your consciousness to opportunities to give is really the purpose. And so I was at this, just a place one day, and I came across this UPS driver, and he was delivering packages and stuff, and we just struck up a conversation. And he's like, I was like, hey, you know, is this what you really, I asked him what his dream was. I said, what's your dream? And
Mhm.
I said, is this what you want to do? Like, what's your dream? And he's like lit up, like, oh, actually, I want to start this company and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And he said what his dream was. He was like, actually, I'm about to start a company right now. And I said, okay, well, what is it? He was like, well, I haven't started because I got to make time to do this and do this. And it takes this time to do this. And he was just naming all of this stuff. Like, I have to do all of these things to start a company. And I said, who told you that?
Wow.
I said, you don't have to do that. He was thinking he had to wait like 3 months to get an LLC or something insane. I said, look, I said, maybe it was a Wednesday. I said, if you file your LLC today, you literally could be in business by the end of the week. And he was like, what? I said, yeah, like it's possible. It may be a little longer, but it's not 3 months. And well, what about this? I said, look, you can file it and I have to pay somebody $700. I said, no, you don't. LLC is $300 in Texas. You can do that today. You get your EIN, which is an employee identification number, which is the equivalent of your social security number for your business. This is how you get business credit. This is how people identify your business with the IRS. Then you're going to take that number and then you're going to go get what's called a Duns and Bradstreet number. That's setting up your business credit profile. And then you can go to the bank with your EIN and your articles, your LLC formation number, what's called a file number. You can take that to the bank and get a business bank account. At that point, you're in business. You can
Wow.
do that literally within a day of getting your LLC back from the state of Texas. I literally filed my LLC like maybe on a Wednesday, and I got it back on maybe 2 days later or something like that. It was quick. Like it was quick. So I say all that to say a lot of times it's easy for us to build up this story in our head about the perfect scenario and what we should be doing. And
Yeah.
we can't do this because we have to do that. And it's going to take us this long to do this. When really in his mind, he didn't start because he thought he had to go through this really arduous process, right? So I broke that down for him. I said, all you got to do is do that. And I said, if you have any questions, you can text me or call me directly. I gave him my number. I said, anytime you're ready to get started, call me if you have any questions. Now, that seemed like a very eh, happenstance exchange. But when you think about the exponential effect of someone starting something and
Mm-hmm.
challenging their fears and doing something anyway, think
Yes.
about the possibilities of that. That's like that's potentially a generational change. I'm the first person in my family to really start a business this way and start a company, and I was the first in my family to do a lot of things. But the first time my mom flew in an airplane was when I moved away from after I graduated college. So
Wow.
had I not done that, so you taking advantage of an opportunity is many times connected to the opportunity of other people. So had I stayed in my own hometown and did what everybody else was doing, then possibly she would have never flown on an airplane, or at least at that point in her life. But she wanted to be she wanted to be a flight attendant, like early in her life. But she had gone throughout her life and never flown on a plane. But when I stepped out and did something different, I moved to Minneapolis. We drove to Minneapolis and she flew back. And
Wow.
so that was an opportunity for her to do something that she never did before. And everywhere I go, she comes. Like she's talking about coming to Texas now. Like she's been here several times. She's been to Jamaica. She's been all
She's
of these
everywhere
places, man. But us stepping out and starting and being purposeful, it's not just about us, it's about
now.
everything that's connected to us, you know. And so attaching ourselves to a bigger purpose and a bigger vision of what we want to accomplish is about the purpose of it, but it's also about facing those things that we call generational curses.
Wow.
Some things is not a curse, it's just the fact that we haven't faced it. Face it, deal with it, and start something different, you know? And so we could start a part 2 and 3 and 4 about that. But the point is, it's like, man, we have to start and figure out be the how of something is not necessarily something we should be concerned about. It's taking the step to start it and being committed to
That's
the
good.
process of making it happen. You know what I mean? Because you're gonna learn everything you need to know along the way. You just People learn how to do their jobs on the job. You can't learn how to be, you know, you can't be Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant on the bench. You know what I mean? Like you have to get in the game and challenge yourself and play against more skilled defenders, and you have to do that. Like it's just so. What I said to you was I'm gonna use all my gifts. I do some of everything. I design. I'm
You designed my book
listen.
covers.
I do some of it. I do business coaching, personal, like not from a formal standpoint. Like I'm not gonna solicit somebody. I'm their life coach. I'm not a life coach. But if I come across somebody that needs something that I have, I'm gonna give it to them freely in abundance. Like you can hear, I'm gonna give you game right now, or I can from a business standpoint, like I just see things like I have an eye marketing. I just see it.
Yes.
Like I make complex things simple and package it and put it out there. That's what I do in many different forms. And so I cut hair. I learned how to cut my hair
I
2004,
know that.
and I was cutting other people's hair. Like I had people lined up in the dorm room cutting their hair for $5 when I was in college. You know what I
Wow.
mean? Like I've some of those early cuts were a little,
Little
it
janky.
was a little questionable. But I learned like how to do it, and I've been to the barbershop twice in maybe 16 years. You know
Wow.
what I mean? Like, and it saved me so much time, so much money. Like sitting in the barbershop, waiting. Inflation with haircuts.
You
Think
said,
about how much money and time that I've saved by learning a skill that
mhm.
was essential to me. Like I can't get that time back. But that's just an example. It's like I cut somebody else's hair. It's not what I do, but if I can do it if I need to.
Like
You know
when
what I
you did
mean?
the
So
book cover, you mentioned it earlier. You're right. My book cover has caught a lot of people's attention. People who I've interviewed on this podcast, um, they inbox me. Oh, I saw your book, same novel. the one that you it's that one in particular. That novel stands out to so many people. It actually got me to working with Erica Taylor. If you're watching, girl, she's the one that that is starting this documentary for women health, and she saw my book cover and we talked, and I jumped on her team basically and pushing the documentary, helping in any way, especially writing for the documentary. So it really opened doors when, and the first thing she did say was, well, the reason why I wanted to talk with you is because I did notice your book. I looked you up, I Googled it, and she saw the novel. And I laughed to myself because I'm saying, I remember
That was
when I
some things
didn't
you
want
didn't want to change.
to cover.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was so
That
true.
was
So
some things you didn't want to change. Yeah, yeah. And so I'll just say this real quick. The quick story, and we can wrap it up. So, a few years, 2013 actually, I was traveling in California, and I I love watches. Like I really like watches. That's my thing. And so I was traveling, and I flew into LAX, and I was going to Anaheim, and so I had some time to kill. So I just kind of on my way down, I stopped at the store. I was just looking around, and I came across this watch in the case. Now I'm not a very flashy guy, but this was like a gold watch with a blue face, and it completely just I was enamored with this watch, and I was like, man, this watch is nice. I want it. It was expensive. I was like, ugh, I don't know. Let me think about it. So the guy says, hey, I'm gonna give you a ticket, little ticket, piece of paper with a number on it that they have, and he said, I'm gonna take it out of the case. I'm gonna give you this ticket, and you can come back and get the ticket with it, get the watch within 24 hours. Give me this ticket. If you don't come back within 24 hours, I'm gonna put the watch out for other customers. I was like, no problem. Let me think about it. I'll be back. I'm just going down here for a meeting. I'll come back. After my meeting, I never got a chance to come back up to LAX. I ended up flying out of Orange County.
okay.
So I was like, man, I didn't get a chance to come back up there. But it's a national store. I'll just go. Surely they have it in Dallas. I'm
Mhm.
going to go to Dallas. I landed and immediately went to looking for the watch. I went to everywhere, all the stores. I could not find it. I was like, at a certain point, days and days and days, I was like, I'm going to find this watch because at this point, it's about the story. Because persevering, I'm going to find it. I could not find the watch anywhere. They said, oh, it's the last one. We don't have it. Some weeks passed by. Someone gifted me with that watch. They gifted me with the watch.
Wow, that is amazing.
And so I I described it to them, and they like just somewhere they found it and gifted it to me. I was blown away. But the story
Hmm.
behind it is I had the opportunity to get the watch right then and there, and I didn't take advantage of it. Sometimes people are not going to gift it to us. Sometimes we're just going to have to deal with the fact that we didn't take the opportunity. But here's the thing, I asked them how much the watch cost. It cost double of what it did. Had I bought it, it cost double what it cost when I saw it. So, what I took from that was
Hmm.
sometimes when we have the opportunity to do something, we should do it. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're not going to get another opportunity. It may just cost us more.
Wow.
So when we think about business and purpose, you remember I talked about the exchange
Yeah.
of it's going to cost you something. It's
Hmm.
going to cost us something anyway. It cost me something just by going to the store and spending time, but it cost me even more because I didn't take advantage of the opportunity. It didn't cost me specifically, but it cost more to them that gifted it to me.
Wow.
But if I wanted it, I was going to have to pay the cost. Had I found it, if I wanted the watch, I'm going to have to pay the cost.
Yes.
And some struggle is unnecessary. I could have just bought the watch when I
Yes.
had the opportunity to, but I procrastinated and I missed the opportunity. So I spent so much time trying to find something that I could have done it. I could have just got the watch when I initially planned to. And so when we think about opportunity, man, opportunity does not always come around the second time. You have to take the opportunity to do something when you have the opportunity.
Yes.
Like you cannot think that you have another, you can't think you have tomorrow to do what you can do right now. You can't because it's critical.
The Bible
And
talks about
so
it. Mm-hmm.
I just if I could leave people with something, I would say the business of purpose is heavily reliant on us being obedient and taking advantage of the opportunity we have because we're not guaranteed tomorrow. We can't be so arrogant enough to think that we're going to wake up tomorrow or next week and do a thing because we may not, and then it's going to be out for somebody else. I had an idea to do something, and I actually saw the product in the airport. And I was like, I had that idea,
Wow.
the exact thing. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be done. You're just not going to reap the rewards from it. So they got to deal with the airport and some national retailers to sell the thing. It was like a shoe like a protective shoe cover for your
Mhm.
feet. I named it. I set up the profiles online. I just didn't pursue it.
You didn't move into it.
I was walking and I literally saw it in the airport. I was like, this is the exact thing I was trying to create, the marketing, branding, everything. So it doesn't mean like God is not going to abort purpose because we are not obedient. He's just going to give it to somebody else who is. You know what I mean? Like, but if we want to reap the rewards of that and the impact and the fulfillment from being purposeful, like we got to move on the thing that we know we're supposed to be doing. So that's really it.
I love that message because I believe that, like you said, we don't know when we're going to leave this earth. And God has gifted us with so many things. And kind of go back to what you shared with me the other day that kind of left me speechless a little bit about you want to use up everything God gave you. And so hopefully those who are watching this, if you have a gift, if you have a idea, if you want to start a business, research, but don't stay there. If you're nervous like me in starting certain things,
Be nervous. That's good. It's good to be nervous.
move into it anyway, like I'm doing. I'm consistently moving. When God tell me to do something, I may not have, I may not know everything, I may not have everything right, but I move. That's one thing I will do is move when God tell me to do something. I don't want to miss an opportunity. So yeah, y'all stay tuned. Make sure you go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's called Let's Talk with Danuelle Podcast. You can find me on YouTube. Like and share and subscribe. I will be transitioning to lives, doing my lives on YouTube. But for right now, just stay connected with me on Facebook and also connect with me on YouTube. And you'll see more content with different people talking about their journey and having just sharing knowledge and information and tips. Hopefully you guys got a lot. I know I did. I got a lot with being with Brian and talking to him and sharing. Listen, I'm a little spoiled a little bit because he have given me a lot of tips over the years. I've known Brian for a while now. He invested a lot of knowledge when it comes down to my business. He wanted to see me prosper and wanted to see my product be the best it can be. And when you meet people like that, you want to stay connected with them and value them because God's poured into them gifts and talents and things. And like he said, he moves in his purpose to do those things. So we got to do the same thing. So
Absolutely. You
you have
said
any
it.
words?
Got to start. We should
Yeah,
have named it Start with Purpose.
I know.
Starting purpose.
Starting business. That's
It's the
right.
same thing. The business of purpose is the exchange, accepting the exchange of what it's going to cost to be purposeful because it's always going to cost us something. The question is, are we going to count the cost and are we going to be willing to do what it takes because it's going to take something. So, yeah, I just hope people, man, I just hope people do the thing that they're called to do and not necessarily the thing. I just hope that they just raise their level of consciousness up to giving away uh, the taking opportunities to give, and I think that'll give us a higher level of fulfillment. I think it will cause us to, uh, just have the impact that we're created to have in the earth. And so yeah,
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it. Glad you. Thanks for having me on. If we can have a part two to talk about the other side of it, but
We'll
I'm
talk
I'm
about it,
all
right?
I'm
I would
I'm,
love
I'm all about it.
Yeah, I would love to have you back on. Thank you for being on my podcast. I really am happy you shared all this great information and knowledge and your stories. So you have a great day, Brian.
I have more stories, a lot of stories.
Yes, you're gonna come back, right? I'm gonna hold you to
I'll
that.
come back. I'll come back for sure, for
All
sure.
right.
So
Bye.
thank you.
You're welcome.